Tonight we are live from Rotterdam, London and Nairobi. Welcome to StockBox Premiere. Joining us on the panel tonight, our guests are Robbie McCrae, the CEO of Caracal Gold. That's the ticker GCAT, G-C-A-T, where we'll be talking about the producing Kilimapesa gold mine in Kenya. And Darren Hazelwood, the CEO of Panther Metals. That's the ticker P-L-A-M, Palm, talking about the Obonga gold project in Canada. There has been a slight change of plan as our other scheduled guest, Ben Turney from Kavango Resources, unfortunately has the flu, so is unable to join us this evening. But we do hope you feel better soon. Ben, take care. So as usual, we'll begin with the 10 to 15 minute project specific interview, followed by the open Q&A session for 15 minutes. And of course, this is your chance to put your questions directly to the director speaking using the live chat. I have already received a number of questions for directors, so we will put them to the directors, but please do engage on the live chat. Join in the conversation on YouTube there, or hashtag StockBox Premiere over on Twitter. And if you're feeling generous, hit that like or subscribe button for us. The directors are bound by the market rules, but they will do their best to answer your questions as best they can. So to kick us off tonight, then, let's welcome our first guest. That is, of course, Robbie McCrae, the CEO of Caracal Gold. So, good evening, Robbie. Welcome onto StockBox Premiere, your second time on the show. How are you doing?
Thanks. Good evening, Mark, and wonderful to be back again. Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
Yes, no problem. I'm very pleased to have you back. Always keen to keep up to date on the progress at Kilimapesa and the wider picture at Caracal. Of course, Caracal is an LSE-listed gold producer and developer with established operations in East Africa and over 1.3 million ounces of JORC-compliant gold resources. The company is focused on building production and profitability, targeting over 50,000 ounces per annum gold production and over 3 million ounces JORC-compliant resources across the strategic portfolio of operations. The core project within the portfolio is the Kilimapesa gold mine, targeting 24,000 ounces per year. And that's the focus of tonight. So Robbie, just to start us off then, perhaps for new and existing investors, could you just give a quick helicopter view of the producing Kilimapesa mine and the key stages in its development to becoming a major producer in Kenya?
Sure, Mark, no problem. And guys, it's quite late here in Nairobi, so excuse me being in a t-shirt, but it is a Caracal Gold t-shirt. The project is located in southwest Kenya. The greenstone belt, or the gold belt that we sit on, is an extension of the prolific Tanzanian greenstone belts, which holds some major mines. We're a producing gold mine, and we're currently busy with an expansion, taking it from current production levels to 24,000 ounces or per annum, or 2,000 ounces per month, as you've correctly stated there, Mark. Kilimapesa's got 706,000 ounces in resource, JORC-compliant resources. We're drilling and exploring at the moment. Those will be expanding. We have an underground and an open pit mining operation, both of which are being expanded to provide more ore as part of our expansion program. We have a crushing milling CIL plant, which treats our high-grade material. And we have 3 heap leach pilot plants, which we constructed over the last couple of months and did a proof of concept, and which now we're constructing a commercial size 70,000 tonne per month heap leach is the focus of our expansion project to get us to the 24,000 ounce per annum. We expect to be able to we'll achieve that capacity during the first quarter of 2023. So yeah, that's a quick summary, a quick overview of the mine and where we are.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I wonder if you can perhaps give shareholders a bit of an update on the operations side of things. I don't know if you can comment on the current rate of production, but I think people are also quite keen to hear about the progress on the heap leach pads.
Yeah, I mean, we came out and announced that the board had approved our expansion right at the end of the first quarter of this year, and we went immediately into an engineering design planning phase, and we commenced construction we commenced the expansion project construction at the beginning or the sort of mid of the second quarter, and that's progressing well. One of the questions that has come through is do we consider ourselves to be a unique company or unique in the junior space in that we are producing and exploring, but we're actually producing, we're actually exploring, developing, and producing all at the same time. So yeah, we've been on site as Caracal for 18 months, and we've produced gold every month since we've been here. We're currently producing in magnitude of between 350 and 500 ounces a month. We have been as high as over 800 ounces per month since we've been here. The production levels have been varying. As I said, we're in a construction and development phase, as well as optimizing various areas of the plant. So as we construct, as we optimize certain areas of the plant, we're taking areas of the plant offline, bringing other areas of the plant back online. So yeah, production has been up and down. We're getting to the stage now where that is stabilizing out, and with the construction of the commercial size heap leach pad, with the stable production from what we've done on the optimizing side, we'll get to that run rate of the 24,000 ounces per annum during the first quarter of next year.
Okay, so during quarter one is the target to get to that 24,000. Okay, I know you're also very keen on the plan, aren't you? We've spoken before quite a lot. You have things scheduled, you have things timed. How are things looking in regards to that and the I don't know if it's a Gantt chart you have, but certainly I know you're quite keen on the key milestones in the plan. Are things going as you are hoping and on track?
Yeah, I mean it's a substantial expansion for us, and obviously these expansions cost money, and we've been producing and funding a lot of the expansion out of the cash flow that we've got. I mean, I don't think it's a secret. We've been negotiating and securing funding to finish the expansion project, and I mean it would be that announcement is imminent. So yes, we're on track. We'll and with the upcoming announcement on the financing, we'll be able to keep the expansion project on track. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a very strong project development team on site, very experienced. They've done this all before. We've got a strong management team on site who've managed or who are actively involved in the management of mines all over Africa. So yeah, we've got the team. We're on track at the moment. Funding is imminent for what's required to get us from where we are now towards the end. So all the building blocks are in place, and we're on target for the first quarter of next year.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm glad you mentioned funding. We will come on to that in a moment because that is some of the questions that shareholders have, investors have already submitted. Can we just touch a little bit on some of the field activity side of things, an update on the various drilling campaigns ongoing to expand the regional exploration program?
Yeah, I was on site 2 weeks ago, and Frank and Rian took me through all of the results that we received to date, and they're going through the verifying process and the checking processes, and they took me through the upcoming programs on the exploration side, and it's tremendously exciting. Obviously, the main focus at Kilimapesa was the Kilimapesa Hill. That's where that hosts our underground and our open cast operation, and we put out an updated resource on that at the end of June, early July of this year. And we then moved the drill rigs onto some of our regional targets to start testing those. Very quickly, Frank and his team identified that Vimrutha was the best target regionally, and we really honed in and focused in on that. We've popped a couple of holes into it, both diamond and RC. we're busy going through the results that we've received from the lab on those. We've done some trenching, we've done some soil geochem, and the consensus is that Vimrutha could be a second discovery within our Kilimapesa exploration license area. So I'm looking forward to getting the final information out of Frank and his team in the next week or two, and then being able to put that out to the market. So we're very excited about that. Give you an indication, we've got 4 kilometers of strike on Vimrutha, and we believe most of that strike is mineralized. It's an exciting project, and I think with my entrepreneurial kind of brain on and the passion for exploration in Africa within our license area, we've got a number of other targets which are very similar to Vimrutha when we look at the high level geology and the work that's been done to date. So with the work that's going on Vimrutha, and if the model, the exploration model works on Vimrutha, and we discover something serious comes out of the exploration work on Vimrutha, we may even have other targets if we apply that model within the license area to grow that. So we're very excited, and of course not forgetting Kilimapesa Hill. I mean, the rigs will go back onto Kilimapesa Hill late this year or early next year. We understand Kilimapesa Hill very well. And we'll grow those resources quite substantially with some drilling, and we'll continue to grow the confidence in the resources on the hill. So yeah, exploration we're very excited. It's going well out on Kilimapesa.
Excellent. Okay, well, you touched on a few things there. The potential of a second discovery there at Vimrutha. We've talked about the Q1 target, and of course the rigs returning to Kilimapesa Hill. Could you give an idea perhaps of what news flow investors could look forward to in the coming months as we sort of head towards 2023? I know it's very difficult. People will hold you to these dates, so it's you have to be careful when you talk about these things.
No,
but,
of course.
In your mind, what significant points or milestones are set to come?
Sure. I mean, obviously, one of the questions that's going to come up is around our temporary suspension, which came out earlier this week. So the first announcement which will come out is the audited financial statements, and we'll deal with the reason behind the suspension, I think, in one of the questions that's coming up. But that announcement will be out very soon and is imminent. A lot of hard work has gone into that. It's 18 months worth of audit. There were some legacy issues which needed to be sorted out. Auditors have worked hard. Our teams have worked hard. So yeah, those will come out. Key announcement for us is going to be the financing announcement. I think the market is really going to enjoy what's going to come out on the financing. So that will be a key announcement for us very soon. We've touched on the regional exploration. Those results are in their final form. We're getting them vetted by the independent, and we'll put those results out. And I think that's going to be a very exciting announcement. I can't wait to draft that announcement and put it out. And part of that announcement, obviously, what we're planning going forward and the timing of what's planning going forward. So the market will be able to see what we've done to date and what we plan to achieve kind of quarter on quarter going forward. And if we extrapolate the results that we've got to date out into that, it'll be very exciting. The work in Tanzania has gone very well. Phase 1 is complete. The draft report is due for submission. I've had a look at some of the results, and I think they're better than what we could have expected. The work has gone exceptionally well. The phase 2 program again then will, after we've put out the results from phase 1, we'll then put out an announcement on what we plan to do on phase 2 in Tanzania. That'll include some drilling and updated mineral resource estimate, etc. So an exciting announcement coming out of Tanzania, and that Tanzanian announcement will clearly define how that project will go forward. And I believe it's potentially a second development project for us from what I've seen to date. Another announcement which I'm very excited to draft is we'll put out an announcement on the Kilimapesa expansion project. We've done a lot of engineering work, a lot of feasibility study work, a lot of financial modeling work around the project, and we've in the process of compositing that. It's all gone into a Dropbox, into a database for the various financiers that we've been talking to over the last couple of months to review. And we want to release a nice project summary to the market, detailing exactly what we're doing, going into more detailed capital and operating costs for the market, so they get a better understanding. So that's another announcement which will come out. I think there's going to be lots and lots of photos coming out. So the social media platform will be buzzing with the progress. I mean, you have a look at like Premier in Zim putting out the announcements of breaking ground, building the dams, foundations going in for tanks. We've got some great stuff to put out to the market soon, with the construction of a big heap leach pad, etc. going out. There'll be some updated mineral resource estimates. I mean, there'll be an updated mineral resource estimate for Kilimapesa Hill. There'll be a first mineral resource estimate for Vamrutha, and obviously an updated mineral resource estimate coming out of Tanzania. So there's I know some of our shareholders and me a bit frustrated. Sometimes you have bursts of news flow, and then sometimes the company's very busy, and there's not a lack of news flow, but there's guys are working hard in the background, and it doesn't always translate into immediate news. But I think we've achieved a lot over the last quarter, and there should be some significant news flow coming forward. I mean, and those are just the big ones. Within that, there'll be some additional small ones, but those are some key targets.
Excellent. Sounds like a lot to come, Robbie. So thank you for giving us a bit of a snapshot of what's to come. Let's go on to the questions then. As I say, there are quite a few. So let's hope we can get through them all. The first one, since you touched on it there about the suspension, can you give a bit of background around this temporary suspension? It's quite unusual, isn't it?
It is. Sometimes, I mean, I know companies in Australia will go into a temporary suspension when they've got some big news or some very big news to come out. It is unusual for the London market. We had 18 months of audit to complete. We moved our financial year end, which means we had to audit 18 months worth of work. We had just come off the back of an RTO. There were some legacy issues which had to be resolved as part of the audit. Paul, Ronald, and the financial team and the auditors worked very, very hard to get to those targets. Last week we thought we were on target. We really did. There was what I believe quite an insignificant technical query raised on Friday afternoon of all days, and we wanted to be releasing the results on Friday. On Friday afternoon, a query was raised by the auditors about some opening balances going back to when the asset belonged to Goldplat, January 2021, and we had to deal with them. You can't avoid it. You've got to crack on and do it. And we had to get hold of the Goldplat previous auditors, and we had to put them in touch with our auditors, and our auditors had to work through the queries. I mean, we're listed on the main board of the London Stock Exchange. That requires a certain level of scrutiny, a certain standard of auditing from auditors. It's to the benefit of all shareholders, stakeholders in the company. So it was something that we couldn't avoid. We were hugely disappointed to put out the suspension. We would far rather have been on this interview tonight talking about a financing announcement than that, but it happens. It's not a material issue. Paul and his team and the auditors are dealing with it now, and it will be resolved imminently.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Now let's talk about the funding then, because I can see people are commenting on the YouTube there. It's mostly about the cash. How are you funding the mine? Do you have enough cash to fund all the expansion? And someone said here about the burning question, in my opinion, is holding back the share price at present, and the market is factoring in a placement. It's interesting we can talk so openly about this because, of course, the share is suspended at this time. But what is the cash runway looking like then? And just give us a snapshot of. You've mentioned this. You've dropped a few hints. What's the deal, Robbie?
But we have come out publicly and said that we're not coming to the market for money. Most of us are significant shareholders in the business, and we don't want to be raising money at these prices and diluting our own position as well as diluting the position of our loyal shareholders. We have a wonderful benefit of being a gold producer, and being a gold producer opens up a whole new raft of options for financing. I mean, we produce gold every week, and we produce revenue every week, and because of that, we were able to tap various products that the market offers. I mean, big gold companies hedge forward a lot of their production. TRX, who are just across the border from us, announced a forward gold sales agreement about a month ago. So those are the areas that we honed in on. We looked at numerous options. We narrowed it down. We had a couple of proposals from a couple of companies. We selected the one that we wanted to go with. We went into a very detailed due diligence process with them, legal, technical, you name it. That process was conducted and done. I can tell you, we've currently got some of their representatives still on site at the moment. I had lunch with one of the guys in Nairobi today, and he's flying out to site tomorrow. So we're not coming to the market. We're not going to do a dilutive financing. The financing that will be put in place will be a product associated with us being able, that we are currently producing gold, and based on what we'll produce in the future.
Okay, well, you put that one to bed then, and I appreciate you might not be able to say too much more, but with what you foresee coming on that front, does that secure the company's position, at least for the medium term, let's say, in their planned activities?
That means we're fully funded for the expansion project. We're fully funded for all the exploration work regionally in Kenya, and we're fully funded for all the exploration work to take us through the first couple of phases in Tanzania. So it's a comprehensive financing. We won't be coming back to the market for the Kenya or Tanzanian projects in the near future.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for that. That's good to hear. So let's carry on with some of the questions here. So, will all samples from assaying now be run through this new recently completed assays lab at Kilimapesa? And will the company see benefits in terms of cost and time efficiency in processing of results?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was the reason that well, one of the reasons we constructed the lab. I mean, the new laboratory is providing very accurate information to our ongoing mining operations as well as our exploration activities. I mean, anyone who's been in the mining business will know, in the processing plant, we're taking lots and lots of samples every day so that we understand what's going on in the plant. There's lots of sampling going on in the pit, in the open pit, in the underground, and those are all the production-based ones. And if you're not getting accurate information on your production, it makes you can't do it. You just can't do it. So I guess that was the biggest reason we committed and constructed the new lab. A tremendous benefit to us is definitely on the exploration side. Exploration is governed by codes. You've got the JORC code, you've got the 43101 code. You're never going to get away from having an independent lab looking at a percentage of your samples. But yes, absolutely. That we're working hard to get our lab accredited. We've got ALS on site managing it, and they're working hard in conjunction with us to get it fully accredited. And yeah, at some stage in the future, the near future, we'll start reaping those benefits, and they'll both be cost and time related. The question is spot on.
Excellent. Is everything still on schedule with all aspects of the plant upgrades and heap leach installation at Kilimapesa? I think from our earlier discussion, it's fair to say yes.
Yes, it is. I mean, these projects are all similar. You've got long lead items, crushing plants, elution plants, all that sort of stuff, and those orders were placed a while ago. Deposits were paid, and the long lead items always determine the final thing of that. So we've got lots of experience in our team on all of those sort of things. We're on track. First quarter of 2023, we'll complete the construction of the expansion.
Excellent. Okay, I've got a few more questions to get through, probably about 5 perhaps. Is further resource drilling still on track to commence early this quarter at Nyakafuru? Yes,
I mean, as I said, the phase 1 report is in its draft form. It's better than what I expected. I need to have time to sit with Frank and Rian and the team and work through it and understand it properly. Then we'll announce the results from phase 1. and we'll consider the recommendations that the technical team put forward to us on phase 2. Rian and I have already been discussing some of the ideas that we've got on phase 2. We want to include some metallurgical test work, so there might be some specific drilling, not only drilling to increase the resource, but we might do some drilling on the metallurgical test work side. Rian, coming from the mining side, is looking at doing some geotechnical drilling, etc. So I think from that people can gather. It looks like a goer of a project, but we need the phase 1 report to come out first, and we need to have a close look at what the team are recommending for phase 2. But certainly, resource drilling, some drilling for metallurgical test work, geotech work, etc., will be part of the program. We will be drilling in Tanzania as soon as the phase 2 work program is approved.
Following on from that, then, do you have any estimates for when the Nyakafura project can begin producing gold, such as 2023, 2024?
Interesting question. So we've got a very interesting. I mean, with this whole financing model that we've put in place now, there's quite a lot of interest from the people who we're talking to on the financing, and a few of them have already started engaging us and asked us the same questions on Tanzania. I believe part of the phase 2 program will be to come up with a preliminary economic assessment on the Tanzanian project, and I believe that will then allow us to start talking in more detail to the finance people. We will have to go into some. We will have to do a proper feasibility study in Tanzania after we've done the phase 2 work. So we're probably 18 months away from a decision on pushing the button on construction and production, and then 12 to 18 months after that. So 2.5, 3 years before I would estimate, and I hope nobody holds me to it exactly, but everything goes well, 2.5, 3 years, and Tanzania could be in production.
Okay, thank you. Are the outstanding batch 4 samples still expected to produce a second MRE upgrade this quarter at Kilimapesa?
No. We've factored most of those into the first MRE upgrade. We stopped drilling on the hill, but as I said a couple of minutes ago, Frank presented the plan to go back onto the hill to us 2 weeks ago. I don't see any issues with it. It's testing the eastern and the western extension, and it's a couple of deep holes under the ore body, and it's putting some holes into the area where the underground operation is, which those ounces were taken out of the previous mineral resource estimate. So it's not going to be a long drilling program, and it's been designed to really grow confidence, add the ounces that were taken out of the mineral resource estimate in the central part of the ore body, where the underground mine is, and give us the extensions to the east and the west. So yeah, it'll be you can never say it's a quick program, but it's not going to be a long program, and we know the hill very, very well. I mean, that's the confidence is going to grow. We're going to get a lot more into indicated and measured, and I'd love to take the hill over 1 million ounces.
Okay. Well, just on a similar idea on there, this next question I have is: do you envisage any further significant exploration and resource upside at Kilimapesa beyond this year to increase the life of mine and eventually production beyond 24,000 ounces?
Yes. We've always said, you've got to match the size of your, or try and match the size of your production back to the size of your ore body. And we always said that the plant and Kilimapesa was way too small for the size of the ore body. The exploration upside on the Kilimapesa hill is significant. We've designed the program. We need to do the work, and we need to grow that resource. We've proved the concept on the heap leach. That's why we're constructing the bigger heap leach. And once the expansion to 24,000 ounces is done, it's a case of running the numbers, having the mining guys look if we can pull more tonnage on a monthly basis out of the hill, and building more heap leach capacity. So yes, I believe there's a very real chance that I believe we're going to have exploration success. We're going to grow confidence in the ore body. I'm not a mining engineer. I don't know if they can move more tons than what we have programmed currently out of the hill, but I don't see any reason why not, out of the western extension and the eastern extensions. And our background in process plants, yes, we build more pads and put more tons onto the pad. So I don't see this. I don't see any reason why Kilimapesa couldn't be expanded beyond the 24,000 ounces in the future.
Okay, well, I have one last question that was submitted prior. Then I think there's maybe one or two that have come in on the YouTube there, and we will just take another few minutes just to see if we can get through them, because I know people are interested. But the last one I have here that was sent: are there any possibilities for shareholder dividend payments in the future? Is that part of the plan?
I mean, yes, of course. I'm a shareholder I invest into quite a lot of junior and medium-sized companies myself, and we'd all like to get dividends. I think it's a thing on time. I mean, you have a look at a company like Caledonian. I mean, they've been tremendously successful in Zimbabwe with their operation. It took them a while. It's taken them time. They've put down that new shaft. They're targeting 80,000 ounces per annum, and I think they've been paying dividends now for a couple of quarters. So it takes time. We need to get into steady state production. We need to look at the other projects that we bring online. But yes, certainly we all go into this business we go into the mining business to build mines and to produce minerals, in our case, produce gold, and to return value to our shareholders. And that's through increasing the share price and ultimately getting to a point where we can pay dividends to our shareholders. Like nothing more than to get there. But it's going to take us a bit of time to get there first. But yes, that's the plan.
Sure. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for that. I just want to see if any comments there, any questions coming in live on the YouTube. One that I did notice just popping up was someone was asking where they can get Caracal Gold T-shirts from, Robbie.
Yes, we had some T-shirts made for our staff. Oh, sorry, the dog is barking in the background.
That's your dog.
Yes, we've got some T-shirts. We had some T-shirts and some lovely jerseys made for our staff. Maybe it'd be a nice thing to do for our shareholders. We'll get some T-shirts made, and if people come and see us at the conference in London the end of November, maybe we'll have some T-shirts and caps on our stand.
Okay, excellent. Well, if your dog is calling you, maybe, unless there are any other questions there, I don't see any popping up. So someone just said, are there any other projects coming on stream? Yeah, I don't know if that question means really. Any other projects going on stream? I mean, we've kind of covered the projects, haven't we? I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the Kenyan, we've got the Kilimapesa project in Kenya, and we've got the project across the border in Tanzania. Yeah. Being based in Nairobi, in the middle of East Africa, we see tremendous deal flow. We had a lot of people coming to our office with projects all the time, but we firmly focused on what we're doing at Kilimapesa and across the border at Nakafura.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Robbie. I don't see any questions popping up, so I think we probably covered everything. So if you can stick around, and we'll have a bit of a chat at the end, of course, with Darren as well, just on some discussion points around the market and commodities. That would be good. But thank you very much for now.
Great. I look forward to hearing Darren's questions.
Yes, excellent. Well, I'm going to go straight to Darren, just so we keep on time here, so we can say goodbye to Robbie, and we can welcome Darren Hazelwood, the CEO of Panther Metals. Darren, again, your second time on StockBox Premier. Welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
That's very good to be speaking to you again. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Obonga project. This project covers an area of circa 251 square kilometres, providing an 88% coverage of the Obonga greenstone belt, and currently compromises 5 high priority prospects. And the company is currently drilling on site, and I believe you have been out recently as well, maybe multiple times actually, Darren, I think. So it's nice that you've been able to get out there on site and see the action for yourself. I've certainly seen the images there on Twitter, some pictures and drone footage, so activities definitely in full swing. Just to start us off, Darren, could you give a high-level overview of the Obonga VMS project and the work carried out today by Panther and indeed the previous owners of the property?
Yeah, it's not just VMS property, actually, Mark. It's We've got an intrusive nickel body there as well. It does clearly offer multiple opportunities, hence the nature of the drill program. But look, the overview here is Obonga is a greenstone belt based in Ontario. Ontario's would be within the top 2 or 3% of mining jurisdictions globally. It's got multiple currently producing mines, and historically the Ontario's littered with mines. But Obonga itself, it's a greenstone belt, and greenstone belts are synonymous globally with commercially viable ore bodies. And to sort of put people into the setting, about approximately 80 kilometres to our west is the Sturgeon's Lake Greenstone Belt. Now that's been called Obonga and Sturgeon's Lake have been called sister greenstone belts by the renowned Canadian geologist Jim Franklin, and they basically share the same DNA. Sturgeon's Lake itself, that's got 5 past producing mines. The first one was discovered in the late 60s, and the 5 mines produced during the 70s and into the 80s. And in fact, even today, there's still 2 exploration companies conducting exploration work on Sturgeon's Lake. And it's significant because, as I say, they do share DNA, and that's the rocks and everything that's going on in the two it's remarkable regarding their similarities. And then 80 kilometres to south, you've got the Lac Deals mine. That's a mine owned by Impala. They bought it in 2019 for a circa $1 billion Canadian deal. That had been producing since the late 1990s. And that's significant once we talk about the awkward intrusion, and that's the nickel intrusion that we'll hopefully touch on in a little while. And when you look at its location, it's located between 2.5 and 3 hours drive on A roads down to Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay itself is the biggest urban conurbation in northern Ontario, and it also has the biggest port on Lake Superior. Everything there is set up perfectly. We've actually got our own storage facilities in Thunder Bay. We've worked on building our own infrastructure. That's totally in place. We can do our own core storage, core cutting, and core inspection there. And we've been really working towards this program over the last few years. Past people working on Obonga, BHP were there. Their final report, they were there in the early 90s. Their final report recommended going back and as a high priority target, but for political reasons, BHP had to pull out of exploration in Canada at the time, and they'd never managed to get back. But basically, Mark, all the ingredients is there on Obonga.
Yeah, effectively, I was just going to say that all the ingredients are there. It's a prolific area, as you said. There's good access, good infrastructure, and good data from previous exploration. So you're definitely operating in a very active environment. Just on the VMS deposit, Darren, could you just explain what a VMS deposit is and what are the main commodities that are in play here? And is there anything sort of special about a VMS that Panther can really capitalize on?
Yeah, well, look, VMS is widely regarded as a junior company maker in the mining sector, and that's due to their general high grade, but low strip ratio, and that's all to do with how they're formed. And the other significant thing, and this again leads on to our drill program and why we're conducting it now and how we're conducting it. And I'll touch on that later on. But VMSs, they cluster, and that's exactly what you saw at Sturgeon's Lake. But VMSs themselves, they're generally renowned for copper, zinc, some gold, silver, and lead. But the way that they're formed, they form on the ocean floor. So where VMS used to be on the ocean floor, and what happens? The water seeps through the Earth's crust. And to simplify it, it seeps through, it falls into, it goes into a magma chamber, but during that process of seeping through, it picks up the commodities. So it goes through into a magma chamber or some heat and pressure, and that pressure builds, and then it forms what they call a black. It then forces its way through the ocean floor, and these things can run for a huge amount of time. They'll then find its way. That pressure will force the water back through like a kettle boiling, and as that water protrudes through, or the steam protrudes through the ocean floor, the commodities within that water that's leached through, they actually then start dropping out, and they drop out at different levels. So you'll get a layer of lead, a layer of copper, a layer of gold, because of the interaction. Now, this happens almost in an instant, and it's all to do with the cooling process. So it builds layers, and it just keeps going and going and going. And these things run for an extraordinary long time. And to give you an idea, these are building up through sediments. Now, at Wishbone, we drilled and discovered a VMS last autumn. And one of the intercepts of semi and massive sulfides was over 50 meters long. So you can imagine how long it takes for that to, because that's also been crushed down. That would have been on the ocean floor, and how long that takes to build is phenomenal. But that's the basics of a VMS and how a VMS forms. But then you end up with a chute. And it's that central chute that generally contains your ore body. And a good one to look at is somewhere like Kidd Creek. Now, Kidd Creek's down to over 2,000 meters now, and but its footprint on surface was only sort of 200 feet by 300 feet, which is quite extraordinary. And that again is why we're conducting the type of drilling program that we're doing now, which I'll come on to.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about the drilling program then. You've explained the VMS very well there. I didn't realize it contained potentially lots of different minerals there in that layered form, like you say. I understand Panther's more of a gold focused company, but you are drilling at the moment on these sort of, I think it's 5 priority high priority targets within the footprint. So what one is the company currently drilling now? What are you targeting, and how are things progressing, having been on site recently and seen it for yourself?
The progress has been fantastic. We've completed on Wishbone. In fact, it's literally been completed today. I come off of a call circa an hour ago. One of the rigs is now over at Survey. Another rig has gone to Awkward, and then we'll be left with Ottertooth and Silver Rim to drill. Now, let's go back on these. Wishbone itself. Wishbone was a VMS we discovered last autumn. We worked with the university in Nova Scotia on that, and that confirmed basically due to geological signatures that are left in the sulfides. And we know from studying those that we hit the outer edge of a VMS, and that's how we're able to say with certainty that's what we've got at Wishbone. And as I've already alluded to, that VMSs tend to cluster. So Survey is a classic VMS target. Its signatures are of a classic VMS. We now know we've got a VMS there on Obonga in the Wishbone location. We've got classic signatures at Survey, and in fact, we've also got classic signatures at Ottertooth of VMS, and hence why we're drilling them as a matter of urgency. The drill at Silver Rim, now that's down to high grade lithium in a lake sediment sample in that area, and a very anomalous area of attack in Silver Rim, and it actually works out cheaper for us to drill the anomaly than spend our time doing the surface work. We've got everything in place on Obonga. We've got the camp built. We've got everything there, so we may as well go there and drill that anomaly. We know that north of us, Green Tech, they've had some major success with lithium, and they've raised a lot of money in Australia. Earlier this year, I think they raised circa $60 million. So it wouldn't be outside of our remit to look for lithium within the awkward batholith, which is separate to the awkward target that we're drilling. But awkward is a conduit, and what a conduit means, basically, it's a tube. Okay, I'm going to use a pen as an example. So the commodities flow through the tube, and as they flow through, they come in contact with the wall rocks. And some of it will stick to those wall rocks because they're a lot cooler. But generally, the commodity is heavier than the fluids running through. So the commodities drop down and the deposits are formed along the bottom of a conduit. And as a result, you get no signature at surface. There's nothing going on at surface to indicate what's happening underneath, which is not common in geology. However, what we've got anomalous copper, we've got anomalous nickel, we've got anomalous platinum, palladium, north, east, and west of the awkward conduit. Yet the awkward conduit has never ever been drilled. Now, the source of this nickel, this copper, and the platinum palladium has never been found. The Chinese drilled in 2012, about 2 kilometers to our north. They actually only tested around 10% of that core that we've now got in our warehouse, and that returned grades of up to 0.7% nickel and 0.3% copper. So in today's market, those are actually pretty significant numbers. And the fact that wasn't followed up on, we find surprising. To be fair, we can't actually work out why they drilled in that area anyways. But listen, hopefully that's to us and our shareholders' benefit. But hopefully that gives you some idea of what we've got there.
Indeed. And what are you targeting any particular commodity, or is it almost what turns up?
Well, my own personal views as the company's have developed as well, and as a business, you're absolutely right. We were gold explorer, but due to the opportunity that come up, that's what made us look at Obonga and more industrial metals. So are we looking for what comes up? The simple answer is yes. We're looking for commercially viable deposits, and that's the thing that's going to move the needle for us, and it moves the needle for any explorer. There are many out there that started off focused for one element and found something else and transformed themselves into that. However, we've obviously got Manitou Lakes, which is throwing off some very interesting early stage numbers. Okay.
Well, thank you, Darren. Let's go to some of the questions then from shareholders. The first one I have here, there's a double rig and double shifting going on at the moment at Obonga. Could you just explain sort of the reasoning behind this approach?
Yeah, look, so what we're doing, what you've got to understand with Obonga is why the opportunity exists in the first place, as to why we're acting in the way that we are, because I understand that we're taking a highly unusual approach for a junior explorer. We're drilling 5 targets in one program. The simple reason is that it's just the most cost-effective way of doing it. Now, I do understand juniors building up a potential target. They build it up over 10, 12 months, 6, 12 months, drill it. And then if they're unsuccessful, they'll move on to the next one, spend a few months building that up, and the market reacts accordingly. And basically it's a rinse and repeat process. But for Panther, that's going to absolutely crucify us in terms of dilution, and you're going to end up with any success has been diluted away, and that's why we're doing it how we're doing it. It's simply down to cost. And look, the truth is that drillers win. Okay. And that's why we're drilling. There are other reasons. There are multiple reasons actually. One thing is worth understanding with Obonga is access. The reason that the Obonga opportunity exists is access is very limited on the Obonga greenstone belt itself. Now it's surrounded by very good roads, north, south, east, and west. But the greenstone belt itself is almost like an island. So we're using the helicopter supported. That's expensive for a junior. That's why no juniors have been there. And but in today's market, the juniors hunt, then the majors buy the deposits. Now the majors are interested. We've had very big eyes looking at us, and we've got to make sure that if we make that discovery, remember we control pretty much this entire greenstone belt. And that's not by mistake. We've got to make sure that if we make that discovery, the people in place that have got eyes on us at this stage are the same, are still in those positions. If I do this over 4 years, 5 years, then the chances are that they've dispersed and they've moved on. But we actually have already, part of my site visit, I was working with the First Nations. We know of how we can get access onto Obonga. There's a bridge that was taken out about 20 years ago. The local First Nations would be very happy to see that bridge reinstalled. It works out about $600,000. If you've got a discovery on Obonga, that would pale into insignificance, and that would then give you the road access that you would need and that you would want. But you're not going to. That works out effectively for helicopter supported drill programs. So I'm not going to spend that money until we've got a discovery. It makes more financial sense to keep going how we're going. Now, we don't necessarily need a discovery at this stage. It would absolutely be our dream scenario. But the indications are that even if we got the right pathfinders, that we would certainly still have some eyes on us. So it's interesting times.
Okay. Now, you recently raised some money. What is the intended use of the recently raised £1.15 million?
As obviously it's for Obonga. We have had quite a lot of success at Manitou Lakes. Now that shouldn't be underestimated. The extent and the numbers of the gold in soils at Manitou Lakes was such that we've actually already gone back to Manitou Lakes this autumn and conducted a follow-up program. There's an historic addict, which is basically a little mine. Okay, why they don't call it a little mine, I don't know. But it's a small mine. We did a source grid about 700 meters to the north, and that soil grid has got anomalous gold all the way through it. It's extensive. So what we've done, we've gone back this autumn and we've conducted, and we weren't planning on that, but the numbers drove us to it. And that soil grid is going to extend from the historic addict all the way across. And there's a shear zone that lays underneath that the soil program. And if we can connect the two, and we get anomalous gold in soils that do connect the two, then Manitou Lakes is very much game on. People should look at those numbers.
Okay. Now, is there any plan to crystallize some of the equity in Panther Metals Australia at the appropriate time?
Not at this stage, no. We look. I've built up sort of almost two sides to Panther. We're going for discovery and make no mistake on that. But I've also built up an investment side that I'll continue to build up. I've got my own views on the market. I think that the market is seriously underestimating what's to come. I would like as Panther to not be overextended, hence us taking them as equity stakes rather than funding stakes, where we've got to fund these companies. But it lowers our risk profile. So we've built up value. I think we'll have circa a value of around £4 million in investments when Fulcrum list, and we'll continue to do that, not as a side profile, but really as an opportunity to take advantage of what I believe is coming. And look, Fulcrum, Big Bear, absolutely love that project. But we also wanted Manitou Lakes. I wouldn't bring it Manitou Lakes in with us having what we had on our books. And unfortunately, Fulcrum come along at the right time. And over in Australia, the guys on Panther Metals Australia, 70.6 million tons of nickel at 0.78%, something like that, with cobalt credits. That resource, when they get drilling it again, that's only going to grow. The gold numbers they hit were very, very, very strong. So what they've done is brilliant, and I'm looking forward to that side of our investments growing, and that we're not done there either. I will continue to do that because that lowers the risk profile for Panther Metals and for its shareholders. We're going to ride the markets up and down, but when these ships start rising, we'll rise with them. And if our portfolio's strong, but we're not having to finance every single aspect of it, then it can only be to the benefit of shareholders.
Okay, well, you did mention Big Bear then and Fulcrum, and a question that came in was, how is the transaction with Fulcrum for Big Bear progressing?
The lads have doing a great job, and my understanding that I'll have a weekly call with the guys at Fulcrum, and they're very pleased with what they've got. They're very pleased with how they're going, and my understanding is that they aim to be listed by the end of November, which is slightly beyond target. But look, these guys have already been on Big Bear 3 times this year. That gives you an idea of how committed they are to Big Bear. They've got the drill permits in place. They've actually followed up on the work that we did, connecting Schreiber Pyramid all the way across to Cook Lake. And that's a discovery that we made, and that's never been linked. Now, if those two link, then it's all bets are off the table as to what's at Big Bear. And this could be an extraordinary, exciting time for them, but also for us.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think I have one more question for you, Darren, and that's on the status of Manitou Lakes and Dotted Lake. Can you share anything in that regard?
As we've discussed with Manitou Lakes, we've actually already got back out there. At Manitou Lakes, we were very pleased with the soil program. We've gone out there and conducted another soil program. The reason behind that, if we can connect these, if the soils run strong with gold in that location, having that extra information will allow us to run an IP survey, which based an IP survey, it's another one of those things that it has an acronym, but really basically it's a ground survey where you go along and the geologists and they take an electromagnetic reading under what's going on under the ground, and that would then provide us with our targets, and we can conduct that in winter as it's ground survey, and the foliage is lower, and it just makes it easier for them to do that. That would then define drill targets, so it's actually drill ready. And I can say on here that I've never said before that we've already started the process in terms of applications for drilling at Manitou Lakes, just on the back of what we've seen. We haven't got all the data yet, but drill permits can take some time in Ontario, so we just want to get ahead of the curve as we're doing with the rest of the business. Over at Dotted Lake, we drilled there last year. We hit anomalous gold in separate zones through our drill hole. It was a stratigraphic hole, so we could have a look at the rocks, and it was fine actually. The market hated it, but the market doesn't. The market wants to reward absolute discoveries. However, there's been some interesting work done by Palladium One. They've made discoveries, and part of that discovery is actually with a joint venture with a UK company, and they're defining a 20-kilometer nickel belt. Now that starts actually only less than 10 kilometers from Dotted Lake. Now the anomalies that they've been doing is looking at mag highs. They've then been soil sampling them. If they get any anomalies in the soil, they then drill it. And they've had a remarkable success rate with that. At Dotted Lake, North Dotted Lake, we've got anomalous soil grades from a program conducted in 1982 that absolutely blow anything that we've seen from their and the consistency of it is remarkable. Dotted Lake's interesting. We're going to let them carry on doing their work, let them spend their money. They're understanding it better, we can let that play out a little bit because we've got plenty of credit in terms of what's been spent on Dotted Lake. And we can let that play out. Let's understand the geology a bit more through others spending their money, and then we can decide really what to do. If we wanted to do a deal on Dotted Lake, I could do it tomorrow. Right, and actually make no mistake on that. There are people out there that can see what's going on there, and they would do that. But that's at this stage, that's not going to offer any real value to our shareholders. If we made a discovery at Obonga, we may look at doing that. But at this point, we're happy to sit and let others spend their money.
Okay, I do just have one last question that came in there, Darren, before we go to the sort of discussion time. Are you planning to go to PDAC to promote the projects and Panther?
Would I go to PDAC? I'll certainly be going to PDAC. That would be in March this year, and I'm there to represent Panther. So absolutely.
Go straight to the discussion then. Now, normally, of course, there are 3 guests plus me, but there's only going to be 2, so maybe I will have to join in some of the debate as well. But if we can bring Robbie back as well at this point, and we can start the round table. So, hi, Robbie, welcome back.
Hi, guys.
So, hey, Robbie. Robbie, great presentation. I'm very impressed. I'm going to do my own due diligence on you. Some later on this evening or some tomorrow.
Yeah, it was good listening to your project too. Exciting stuff.
It is. Thanks.
I want to see you next time, Darren, in Panther memorabilia as well, please. I think that always makes the difference. Anyway, so the first discussion point I want to bring up is just regards to the markets generally and what's going on. And it feels sometimes that the markets at this point are at a bit of an inflection point with forecasts generally looking quite grim and financing harder to come by, although of course both your companies have been able to secure that, but from the brokers it's definitely becoming tougher out there to find finance. Do you feel a shift from investing in so-called long duration assets, especially tech, and the shift into cyclical assets such as commodities? Do you feel that shift has started? Are we on that route? Darren, what do you think?
I think that we're starting to see some signs of life in the sector. But I think the truth is that the risk capital at the moment, due to events that are out of the control of juniors and mining globally, are affecting the sector. And we've got to appreciate that. Look, people aren't in this sector for 10% a year growth and 3% dividends. They're looking for multi-baggers. But to get multi-baggers, you have to accept a higher level of risk. And I just think that the risk capital, people are being shy with their risk capital. And I will also say the realities are, at the moment within London and within the explorers in London, we're crying out for a discovery because that money feeds round. And once you get that discovery, that can have a remarkable effect on the whole market. And look, hopefully that's going to be Panther. But that's what you face with. And as Robbie alluded to, the people that drive this are generally the sector, and that's often misunderstood within the investment community. That a good discovery hole, the sector understands that, and Robbie himself said he invests, I invest, and you're looking for that good discovery hole, and that's what then removes you off of that almost that risk capital side. So I hope that made sense, but that's.
Yeah, well, of course, you are
conclusion.
an investor, aren't you, Robbie? You're an investor as well. I've come from that background as well, of course, and we've been talking about when we're going to see this commodities super cycle for quite a long time. It does feel to me that the transition has finally started. There will be a lot of liquidity, in my opinion, coming out of the where the money's gone to for the last 10 years, or even longer, really, particularly with Nasdaq type tech stocks. But Robbie, what do you think? Again, from a personal private investing point of view, and looking at commodities, do you feel that the winds of change have started to blow?
I mean, in certain sectors, for sure. I mean, lithium has had a tremendous run recently. I think that's based around really just everyone's looking, foreseeing a massive supply shortage and a lot of demand. So there's a lot of excitement around that side. I ask myself, lithium's flying, but graphite hasn't had the same boost. So sometimes I don't really fully understand. I know lithium goes into the one side of the battery and graphite into the other. So why don't they move in tandem? But I suppose you've got to do research a lot of those. I mean, I agree 100% with what Darren said. Success breeds success. Darren hits it in and then gets some really good results out of his greenstone belt. It helps all of us in the market. I mean, there's a bit of excitement in our region at the moment now, because it looks like Shanta are in talks to be taken out. That might bring some excitement to our specific region. Maybe that brings some excitement to the market. Maybe that's one of the catalysts that gets things going. Sorry, the dog's barking, but you get some. He likes cheese.
Hey, listen, Robbie, my dog ate my internet connection at home yesterday, so I understand your pain.
So hopefully there's some catalysts which come and go. I mean, we've junior side's been battered. It's hard. It's hard to go out and raise money when your share price has been battered, and you, as directors of the companies, you're running hard, always trying to get the news, just trying to support the share price, and you put out some good news, and people want to get into cash, get out of junior equities, and they sell you down into the good news and stick it into cash. So there's so many factors which you can bring into it. But yeah, I mean, I think the EV sector could drive some stuff for us. I get asked the question often, why isn't gold moving? We've got inflation running. We've got stop it shocking. We've got we got the gold price should be moving. All indications are that the gold should be moving. And 3 months ago we were selling gold for 1,800. Now I'm selling for 1,650. So it is, for me, it's a bit of a confusing time. But I'm a believer and an investor. We're in the business to make multi-baggers. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, indeed, and you're right. It only takes one, doesn't it, Discovery, as you both said there, for the money to start feeding around the rest of the sector, and that comes to start a firelighter for everything. Darren? Yeah, no,
I think if you're looking sort of that on my comments as well regarding probably today, and but I think if you're looking medium long term, I actually think that the commodity sector is. I genuinely believe it's the only true game in town, unless you get some disruptors come through in the technology space, etc. We're talking about the Twitters, and Facebooks and things like that. But these disruptors seem to be there, and commodities are going to drive this. We're seeing more and more deals via governments providing funding. We're seeing end users come in and providing funding. Generally, it's EV related, but it's not in its entirety, and that should be sending a clear signal to the market that this is going to go. And actually, every time an end user steps in and finances, every time a government steps in and finances, that's the sector and the markets are actually losing out on that upside. And that's no good, ironically, to anyone. And I do agree, Robbie, as well. I think there's liquidity at the moment. People, if they see liquidity, they're grabbing it, regardless of how good it is. And I think that'll be short term now. But I do genuinely believe in the medium term. The supply dynamics are brutal. People should really look at them. I know copper's got its copper supply for the next 18 months. Copper sits around 350, 360. Copper supply for the next 18 months is fine, right? Everyone knows that. But when you look after 18 months, 2 years, it's absolutely brutal. But the market's not reacting to that at this stage. When it does, it will go. Gold's hit peak production according to just about every forecast there is out there. We've seen the World Gold Council today announce that you've got record imports across the globe. Is the gold market being manipulated? Listen, who knows? That's way above my pay grade. But I tweeted the other day that I can see gold at $2,300 next year. That I've got very personal reasons for that. And I think we'll see that because it's going to have to be let go. There isn't the production, and every bit is being bought up. And the paper gold market is now, quite frankly, amongst the investing network, is being laughed at because it is making that market a joke. And once it gets to that point, something's got to be done.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so we all seem to be in agreement that it's going to happen, and it'll happen in a very big way. As you say, Darren, it's just not recognised yet what is due to come, but good for everyone in this space, of course. So we await that catalyst event. Okay, so the second point I want to just discuss, given that all of you, both of you, have been on site recently. Robbie, you almost live on site, I think. Darren, you go and visit fairly regularly. How important is it for exploration companies to begin the engagement and involvement with the local communities as early as possible? Particularly, I think, Darren, in Canada, the First Nations is very important. Robbie, of course, you're very active in the local community with your employment there. Can a company's approach to this really make or break a project? Robbie, what's your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, we guests in their country or in the region. Local communities have been there long before we came, and future generations will be there after we came. So we absolutely, it's a partnership. If they're supportive of the mine and see genuine intentions, genuine investment going into the communities, they can be very, very supportive. And if not, they can absolutely. I think they could stop the development of a project. Certainly in a country like where we operate in Kenya and Tanzania, if the community is against you, it'd be very difficult. So it's and it has to be a holistic approach. You've got to look at the community as holistic. You can't favour one group of people over another group of people. You have to be involved with the children through to community projects. We have artisanal miners in our area, and you can't look on them as being the enemy. Their grandparents were mining gold on their farms. They're mining gold on their farms. So yes, it's something we take very, very seriously. I think most junior explorers, junior miners, medium tier, big miners, we all take it. We all take it very, very seriously. It's a focus. We've got Rachel on our board who heads up that side for us. Multiple initiatives running all the time on site to make sure it happens. Without the community, you don't have a project. I think that's my answer.
Yeah. Okay, Darren, would you tend to agree on that then? How early do you have to start engaging with the communities or in the First Nations over in Canada?
Yeah, no, listen, I'd echo all the sentiments there from Robbie. It's paramount, and I don't mind holding my hands up and admitting that I've played a little bit of catch up on community engagement in Canada, because you're trying to learn, you're trying to understand. So because the way I've always looked at it is, I wouldn't want somebody turning up in my backyard with a drill rig and drilling, and me sitting there looking out of my window and I'm wondering what the hell's going on, And if you reverse that, that's effectively the same thing going on, and it's absolutely important. And I've approached things and with the First Nations, I've said to them, look, I'm going to make mistakes here, but please bear with me and please correct me as we go through this process, and ask every question you can, because some of the obvious questions we sometimes, I feel, live in a bit of a bubble, and some of the obvious questions to us are not necessarily obvious to the communities that you're dealing with. But again, you can then flip that. Some of the assumptions we might make regarding the communities, if we're not engaging and talking with the communities and got open lines of communication, then you don't necessarily understand what some of those concerns will be about. And as long as those lines are open, but as long as your intentions are genuine as well, and look, you soon get caught out if you and found out if they're not. And from our perspective, I've actually really enjoyed my engagement with First Nations, and I want that to continue, and I want my knowledge to grow. And because they've got some fascinating histories and some fascinating understanding, and it benefits everyone.
Yeah, I think it's probably more important for companies in the junior side, because of course there was that story. Was it Rio in Australia who blasted through a Aboriginal cave or something? And yeah, they get hit with a big fine, but for them it's not actually that big a deal. They can continue. But for a junior, I mean, if you don't do things right, it could be the end of the story.
Yeah, absolutely right. And listen, let's actually hold our hands up here. Who wants to destroy something with historic significance to someone?
Yeah,
Yeah, no one. Okay. Well, the other point I want to just bring on, and it is very relevant, given the current macro environment with inflation, the cost of living in the headlines over in the UK and Europe, all around the world, really, and of course the energy crisis as well, with talks of potential rationing of electricity this year. Do you factor these into your forward planning? Robbie, what do you think? Maybe in Kenya you're more used to, what do they call it, the load shedding. I don't know if that's an issue over where you are, but I know it's a common occurrence across certain African countries. But do you factor in the kind of the macro environment with regards to what's going on at the minute, inflation and the energy crisis?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty fortunate. We draw our power supplied by a geothermal project, which sits just at the base of the Rift Valley. So, but we run our numbers based on about a 70% grid power availability. So we have standby gensets for the remaining 30%. So yeah, I mean, power in Kenya is pretty reliable, but it does go down. Diesel here in Kenya has gone through the roof. The subsidies were removed, and Kenyan shilling has slid. And they import, the raw materials imported and refined ore, and then the refinery is pretty small. So in many cases, it's all imported. So I think this year we've gone up by about 40% on diesel. So it's had an impact on us. We're running mining trucks, we're running generators, we're running drill rigs. It has an impact. The food crisis has hit our staff. It's the basics are expensive. Flour, sugar, all the staples are expensive, and that's something we have to take into consideration. I could buying in bulk for the staff, and taking advantage of those discounts. Close look at increases for the staff. Yeah, I mean, the cost of living in Kenya here for all of us has gone up significantly over the last couple of months, and yeah, so yeah, we factor them in. We're developing. I mean, you have a look at them. There's been some serious blowouts on some of the big projects. You read the numbers, and I mean, for a junior, you see a big company. I was reading one of the big gold producers in South America. Their project blew out by nearly $100 million. You look at the capex cost; it was a big number. So percentage-wise, but yeah, we're managing that carefully. Steel prices have gone up. No, Jockey. So we're managing that on a day-to-day basis. But yes, it's affected us for sure.
Yeah, indeed. And just coming back to the community question we had just earlier, it'd be even more important if, particularly in Africa, there, if the cost of food has gone up, you have to obviously, keep your guys happy and make them feel looked after. So I guess for you, it's very important to do what you can to keep the employees, the staff at Caracal, well looked after.
Yeah. I mean, we've got 600 employees out at Kilimapesa. We're the mainstay of the community and of the town. We're the biggest taxpayer in the county. So yeah, I mean, it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Darren, what have you seen anything or heard anything from the activities going on in Canada? Maybe you can give us an idea of anything you're aware of, or costs increasing that you need to be aware of coming down the track.
Yeah, I think that our situation would be slightly different to Robbie's. Robbie being in production, that he's going to have a workforce way beyond us. We're kind of at two ends of the scale, but you're always aware of inflation and the potential impact that has further down the line. But from my perspective with Panther, we're an explorer looking for a discovery. The risk reward ratio and the increasing costs are always factored in. I've touched on we've put everything in place to make sure that we can manage our exploration program and show the trail all the way through the processes. And you're always aware, Mark, but it maybe doesn't have the same impact as somebody like Robbie. But the impact a discovery has on us far outweighs, by multiples outweighs what the extra cost would be on us. So I would continue exploring. The biggest thing in this sort of market is obviously the cost of capital, and that to me it can be brutal. We're seeing it across many juniors. But that would be the biggest downside in this type of market, as opposed to the inflationary impact on our costs.
Okay. And just on the cost of capital, Darren, what could you elaborate a bit more on that and how you could perhaps mitigate against that?
I'm mitigating against it all the time. You've seen what we've done with the Australian side. You've seen with Fulcrum. We're constantly looking at opportunities and building those up. And what that's doing, we can almost mirror our investment side to what we've raised in the market. So, and that becomes more prevalent further down the line. However, it does offer an insulation, and that's why I'll continue to do that.
Okay. Well, just a final thought. We have covered the markets, really. I'll just ask for a final thought, though. It's very difficult to make predictions. You ask, 10 economists their opinion, you'll get 12 or 13 different answers. But as we go into 2023, what's your feeling, both of you? Do you feel we might start shaking off the last 18 months of sort of gloom, or is there a bit more to come, or do you have no idea and we'll just have to wait and see? Robbie, what do you think?
No, I'm positive. I'm positive.
Okay.
I hope some of the stuff that's going on around the world will come to an end. There'll be the adults will come to the table and stop, and we'll have a good 2023.
Okay, good. Well, I like that positivity. Darren?
Oh, no, absolutely. Listen, as we've alluded to this evening, just on the very basics of supply and demand, look, this sector is set up beautifully. I've got macro reasons regarding gold. I said I think we'll hit 2-3 in 2023. But I think just about every commodity out there You are sitting on a precipice on the supply side. You're seeing people actioning stuff. It's just not factoring through to price, but that will. I know we've seen lithium go, as Robbie was talking about, but you're going to see it across the board, right? And the market's going to try and control it, but the market is rapidly going out of control, and on the supply side, that's going to drive us to the moon.
Okay, well, on that positive note then from both of you, I like your prediction there, Darren. I will remember that and see what happens throughout next year. Robbie, I'm no doubt, I'm sure, will be pleased if gold does get to 2,300. That would do the company very well. But thank you, everyone. Thank you all for your time tonight. Robbie McCrae, CEO of Caracal Gold. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you, Mark.
Darren
Hazelwood. With you, Darren. Thank you.
Listen, Robbie, love to catch up for a beer sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Darren Hazelwood, CEO of Panther Metals. And if Ben Turney's watching from home, get well soon, Ben. But thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And we'll see you at the next one. Good night.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.